Yes, indeed, we are live for an Elimination Chamber 2026 post-show. The show has just gone off the air live from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. A bit of an interesting one, a bit of a weird one this evening. We found out the direction that WWE is indeed heading to when it comes to WrestleMania. A pretty overall predictable show with predictable outcomes, maybe save the main event, but a predictable show nevertheless. As I always say, predictable isn't necessarily a bad thing in the world of pro wrestling. It's all about execution, and maybe that was the problem this evening, is that some of the execution in some of the more obvious spots was not great. We got a main event finish that maybe, I say some didn't see coming. If you saw, I did a video yesterday, we dropped it, and it was talking about, unexpected swerves maybe that we might see at Elimination Chamber tonight. And one of them I said was Randy Orton possibly winning the Elimination Chamber just because most people expect Cody to win. And that was what happened this evening. Most people expected Cody to win. He didn't. Randy Orton wins. And now I think the story they're trying to do is, oh, look at this. And Cody, what does his road to WrestleMania look like? Tonight was his last chance. Cody Rhodes will be challenging for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Make no mistake, that is going to be a thing. That will happen. I think tonight is just an example of we're getting a multi-man match at WrestleMania. We're getting a multi-man match. We're getting Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Cody, and probably Jacob Fatu involved in that as well, because obviously McIntyre, he interfered in that qualifying match on SmackDown last night as well. So minimum, we're getting Fatal 4-Way, maybe Fatal 5-Way, 6-pack challenge. We're getting something like that for your WrestleMania WWE Championship match. That's that's what it's going to be, I think. If you haven't already, click the like button and also be sure to subscribe. We will get into the matches in question here. Let me just make sure I've got everything set up, because I actually put the stream live early. I meant to end my watch along, and I clicked what I thought was end, and I was actually on the wrong screen, and I'll click go live on the wrong one. So if you're wondering why like the first 2 minutes was like a lot of dead air, that's why, because I pressed the wrong one. So I was scrambling, making sure I had all of the screen captures and everything loaded up as quickly as I possibly could. But we got there. We got there at the end, yes. Right, let's get into how we usually do it here on the post shows. What we usually do is talk first about what we just saw, because that's really, what everyone's reacting to immediately. So let's get into this main event, which was, of course, the men's Elimination Chamber match. After a show of, predictable outcomes, the Women's Chamber, Rhea Ripley, pretty predictable in terms of the Women's Intercontinental Championship. AJ Lee winning the Intercontinental Championship. Pretty predictable. CM Punk, of course, retaining. Predictable. But you got a main event that we went into it going, are we really going to see Cody Rhodes win and face Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, considering everyone knows that's going to be the match? And Cody versus Drew, we've seen a bunch of times. Are they really going to do that for the title at WrestleMania? And the answer is no. They do throw us a bit of a swerve. They do throw us a bit of a swerve in the match with Randy Orton winning. The finish sees Drew McIntyre get involved. He attacked or got involved in the match. Hit. You can see actually here in this screen grab here, he gets involved. Hits. You can see Seth Rollins returns. Hit Cody Rhodes with the WWE Championship, but Randy Orton gets involved, hits an RKO on Drew McIntyre, and there's a crossroads on him as well from Cody. But straight after that, Orton hits Cody Rhodes with an RKO, gets the 1-2-3, and Randy Orton wins. He thinks about pulling Cody Rhodes back to his feet, and then thinks better off it. He's trying to sort of sell this conflicted figure of, Cody's my protege, but I'm still in this for myself. I've just got a WWE Championship match in the main event of WrestleMania. I should be happy. And he's kind of having that look about him. I've been saying for the longest time on, the countdown videos we do, the preview videos we do, you name it, that for me, the feud that I think a lot of people want to see when it pertains to Cody Rhodes is Cody versus Randy. Ever since Cody returned to WWE in 2022, it's been, okay, when's he going to have the feud with Randy Orton, right? It's just easy. Legacy, history, all of it that's the story. And we've kind of been waiting, and we know that Cody's not going to turn heel for that one. It's going to be Randy, and Randy's best work is as a heel. So when's he going to turn heel? But they couldn't do the feud for a long time because Randy was out for a long time. Both of them actually had injuries. But, of course, Randy's was the longest, and they've played up ever since Randy returned in November 2023 that still the babyface, he's still the, he's still the good guy. But eventually we know he's going to get pissed off. He's going to get to a point where Cody, where he's had enough that Cody's, surpassed him. And I thought we were going to get that when we had the King of the Ring finals between them. And Cody won it to go on to SummerSlam to face John Cena. And it looked like Orton was maybe going to turn at that point. It didn't happen. So this has been building for a while. So even if Randy Orton, we have a main event that's maybe Orton, Cody, and Drew. Let's say Cody wins, then I want Orton to turn heel at WrestleMania. Cody wins, but kick him in the head, maybe. Maybe they do that. Some breaking news. Because of that finish, right now on the post-show for Elimination Chamber, SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis has announced Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship this Friday on SmackDown. So Friday on SmackDown, we are getting a WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes. Now, this is where things get interesting with this. Have WWE... What are WWE going to do? Let me know your thoughts about this in the chat. What are WWE going to do? Have they decided that because this whole WWE Championship picture is so messy and they don't want to go back to doing Drew versus Cody again, have they just decided to go with, you know what, fuck it. We're going with Cody versus Randy for the WWE Championship. We're going for that at WrestleMania. That's what we're doing. Cody versus Randy, WWE title. That's our match. We'll do Cody versus Randy for the bout at Mania. If that is the case, unlucky Drew McIntyre. You've waited this long to win a world championship in front of fans and hold it for a while, and then your title reign isn't super long, and then you drop the belt on SmackDown. That would suck for Drew. Or is it a case of it ends up being a triple threat match at Mania? Or is it a case of, Jacob Fatu, he's the wild card as well. Remember, Jacob Fatu, he got cost his opportunity to be in the chamber because of Drew McIntyre. So maybe McIntyre gets involved in that. I think I don't really lean towards Cody versus Randy being the singles match. That would suck for Drew McIntyre. It really would. I think the best direction is multi-man. I think we end up getting... I'm just trying to think how many people are going to be in the match at WrestleMania. Obviously Orton. Obviously Cody. I think Drew. I think Fatu. Maybe you put Sami Zayn in there as well, considering the Rumble and all that kind of stuff. So maybe 5. Maybe it's a 5-pack challenge. Maybe it's a 6-pack challenge, perhaps. Maybe they go in that direction. Fuck it. Do Armageddon Hell in a Cell. 6-person Hell in a Cell. Just go look. We don't really have much of a story this year, and also, this is the other part of it too. Like I said, tickets for WrestleMania are down significantly. Why wouldn't they be? The prices are extortionate. The creative for WWE over the last 12 months plus has been subpar, probably at best. And you're running the same venue in the same location 2 years in a row. Ticket sales are going to be down. It's inevitable. They're high enough as it is, let alone when the product's not great either. So how do you sell tickets? You need to fucking load up that card. You need to put something on that card that people are going to part with their hard-earned money for. Not just the fact that it's WrestleMania. So you've gone with Punk versus Roman. All right, that'll move tickets. What are you doing on the other side of things? Is a triple threat match enough, or are you going to up the stakes even more? We'll make it a fatal four-way. Or we'll make a stipulation on it as well, because they've got to do something. They have to do something. And if we're being really honest here as well, someone mentioned it during the watch along, and it is true. Like, was this meant to get me excited for WrestleMania? This is your final PLE stop on the road to WrestleMania 42, and You know, your creative around WrestleMania 41 last year was heavily criticized. You know, I get some of it might have been out of your hands with the Travis Scott stuff and the Rock stuff and the Cena heel turn that kind of went nowhere and all that. But this time around, what have you got for us? You know, and coming out of the Rumble, there was this sort of eye-rolling a bit of, oh, okay. Coming out of tonight's Chamber, it's, all right, Orton Willing was a nice sort of swerve, and okay, they're probably going to go with a multi-man match for Mania for the WWE title, cool, but the rest of it is still kind of paint by numbers-ish, isn't it? So I think it's a step in the right direction, Randy winning, and Cody versus Drew on SmackDown, because I'm all for giving people a reason to watch the TV show. Sometimes the builds to Manias can be so predictable that you feel like you don't even need to watch Raw or SmackDown on a weekly basis to understand the stories. So I'm on board with the finish of Orton winning, booking the title match on SmackDown. I'm curious with that. I'm curious to see how they get to their destination. But I still don't know if I come out of this PLE going, right, WrestleMania season now. This feels like WrestleMania. That's WrestleMania season. Remember last year when Cena's heel turn happened and Triple H got in the post-show press conference and he basically sort of bragged, didn't he, and kind of tried to rub it in people's faces and noses of like, now does it feel like WrestleMania season? You know, don't be worried about us because we've got the creative plans. Now it feels like WrestleMania season. We got you. Now this is big. Do you get that same feeling tonight? I mean, I get you probably not got a match of John Cena heel turn, but still, do you get that? Oh, wow. This is WrestleMania season. It was a main event that was certainly packed with stuff. You know, I'll give WWE credit in that sense. Look, you get Orton. You know, you get Orton winning, which people didn't expect. And now it's, you know, how's Cody going to get there? Not only that, of course, as you can see right here, Seth Rollins returns to WWE television. He is revealed to be the masked man. Again, predictable. Everyone knew that Rollins was going to be revealed as that guy. And it looks like they are still persisting with the Vision sort of redemption storyline of Rollins getting his revenge against the Vision. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a huge... No, I'd say it doesn't make sense. Because, of course, you notice they very much zoomed in on Paul Heyman's face at ringside. It's because Paul Heyman is now critical to having this Vision storyline actually work out. Because the two people that physically attacked Seth Rollins and physically removed him from the group, they're both injured. It was Bron Breakker who speared Seth Rollins in Australia. He just had hernia surgery. He's out. We don't know if he's going to be back in time for Mania. I think there's a hope that maybe, but it's up in the air. Bronson Reed, he attacked Seth Rollins in Australia. He tore his bicep on Monday. He's out. He's had surgery. He's probably out for like a good 6 months, 7 months. So Seth attacks Logan Paul basically because he's the only one left. I know Austin Theory was at ringside, but he's got nothing to do with Seth Rollins being in the Vision. Logan Paul's got nothing to do with Seth Rollins in the Vision. Logan Paul joined the Vision way after Seth Rollins was gone from that group. So the actual people who are involved in the faction had nothing to do with Seth Rollins being out of the faction in the first place, even in storyline. We know in reality it's because he hurt his shoulder in that match against Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel, doing the coast-to-coast headbutt, and because of that he had to have the surgery. But the storyline purpose is that Paul Heyman, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed turned on him. Two of them aren't around at the moment. Two of them aren't around. So this is one of those situations where Seth Rollins will face a Paul Heyman person, a Paul Heyman guy at WrestleMania. At this point, probably Logan Paul, which, again, doesn't really do that much for me because we've seen Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania. WrestleMania 39, it was Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. So do I want to see that 3 years later? I don't really care for it all that much, honestly. But it feels a little bit like they're going, well, we've got to pay off this Vision storyline, even if Bron isn't ready and Bronson Reed isn't here. We've got to do it, so that's what we're going to do. And you can't do Seth Rollins versus Paul Heyman at WrestleMania, so you got to do Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. So even that storyline, it's a mess, isn't it, really? You know, the whole Vision storyline right now, it is a mess. it's not WWE's fault. They have been unlucky with it, with, obviously Rollins getting hurt, then Bron Breakker getting hurt, then Bronson Reed getting hurt. You would feel like, if it was me, I would be like, the universe is trying to send me a message here, like, this isn't working out. This isn't, we should just go in another direction. We should just go in a different direction here instead of trying to pay it off. But at the same time, maybe it's, if you remember in 2011, when Triple H came back, and he had his match with The Undertaker, of course, at WrestleMania 27, they had him come back to confront The Undertaker, and they did the whole look at the WrestleMania sign. They made the match without talking. The next week on Raw, Triple H attacked Sheamus and pedigreed him through a table because it was Sheamus who took him out the prior year after their match and feud. Ironically, that was at WrestleMania 26. So maybe we could have a similar situation here. Rollins is back. He feuds with the Vision for a couple of weeks, say. It builds to Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul on Raw. Or if he's not cleared for that at this point, maybe he just stomps Paul Heyman on a Raw, and that's the end of the story, and then he does a different WrestleMania storyline. Maybe they pivot, but the only way for Seth to return is by him acknowledging the reason he was off TV, which is in storyline The Vision. So he has to tie up that Vision story before he moves on to another story. Maybe that's what they do. Because, don't get me wrong, Seth Rollins, Logan Paul would be a fine match, I'm sure. But not only have they done it before, they've done it at WrestleMania before. And I don't think there's any need for Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania again. Now, if Bron Breakker is back in time, okay, cool. You can do Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker. But even then, we've got a scenario where you've got a match between two guys in Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins that are both rushing back to be ready in time. We don't know how ready Rollins is. He was cleared enough to do the stomp in that tonight, but we don't know if he's fully cleared at the moment. It might be a case of he'll be cleared in time for Mania, but we just need to get him back on TV. Your shoulder, you can do a stomp. It doesn't affect your shoulder, does it? No, I can do a stomp. Yeah, all right, fine. Then do that. And then you'll be cleared in a couple of weeks to actually have a match. Maybe that's the plan for it. But with Bron Breakker, I know there was this kind of hernias, you never know. You can be back in a short period of time, or you can be out of action for a really long time. So it looks like this is the direction they're going in for Rollins. Rollins versus the Vision at Mania. Just what and who is it going to be, basically? Who's his opponent going to be? But yeah, so Rollins is back, and Randy Orton wins the men's Elimination Chamber match. So I think the direction that you're getting here is, because this is, now you start to kind of put together a few more matches on the WrestleMania card, don't you? We know CM Punk, Roman Reigns. We know Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill. It's not going to be Randy Orton versus Drew in a singles. I think if we get a singles WWE Championship match at WrestleMania, it's Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes is challenging for the title now on SmackDown. I don't think they're going to do that. I think Fatu gets involved on SmackDown. So I think we have Fatal 4-Way minimum for the WWE Championship. Drew versus Orton versus Cody versus Fatu. And then, like I said, Rollins involved with the Vision at some point. Liv versus Stephanie Vaquer. So the card's starting to sort of flesh itself out. And actually, on paper, looks like a decent WrestleMania. Out of all of the matches that are on it at the moment, the only WrestleMania, like, that's a big time match. That's a big match. Is probably Roman versus Punk. That's the one that feels, for me, I'm of the mindset, and AJ Styles actually mentioned this recently, and it is really true. WrestleMania's watered down now. WrestleMania doesn't have the luster that it used to. It's still the biggest PLE of the year, don't get me wrong. It's still the biggest event WWE does, and it's still its marquee event. It is still the Super Bowl of pro wrestling, but maybe it's just me, and I can't really put my finger on why. Maybe it's because it's a 2-night event. Maybe it's because it's overexposure of WWE. But you're kind of right that sometimes it doesn't. WrestleMania 40 a couple of years ago, that felt like a WrestleMania. Like The Rock was there, and it was Rock and Roman, and Cody and Roman. Like, that felt like that's a WrestleMania. That's big time. This is like, we're not going to see this again. This is what it feels like. Last year, I just didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like that. This year, still at this time, does it feel like that? The main event, I think, will. Punk versus Roman. That's a big one, because in singles competition, this version of Punk hasn't faced this version of Roman. I know they were in the triple threat match last year, but it's different, and it's for the bout. That feels like a WrestleMania match. Everything else, not so much right now. They've got time to fix that. I don't know if I have faith that they will, but I'm not sure. What are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Drew loses Friday, and Drew and Nick at WrestleMania. Or Nick Aldis. What else are people saying here? Steffi says, "Man, going to stomp Heyman." LOL. Maybe that's what they'll have to do. Maybe that's what they'll have to do. I'm not sure. And of course, as touched on, we still got to figure out who Brock Lesnar's going to face in that open challenge at WrestleMania. There'll still be a lot of speculation on that too. So yes, that was the men's elimination chamber. Well, actually, what I do want to add to this, let me take away some of these images. I just want to add the crate reveal, because I don't have a specific graphic made for it at the moment. So let's just so we can go through it very quickly. For those wondering what it was going to be, we did have a confirmation about who was inside the crate at Elimination Chamber. As you can see, it was opened by Raw and SmackDown general managers Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. There was a coffin in there. The coffin opened, and I guess it was interdimensional, because lots of people came out, lots of dancers, and it was Danhausen. He made his WWE debut. We had seen yesterday that he was talking about freedom on his social medias, that his AEW contract had expired. Of course, it was set to expire last year. He had requested his release from AEW, but injury time was added on. But Danhausen was now officially gone from AEW. And from one promotion to another, he made his WWE debut. He had dancers. He pointed to certain things and little bits of pyro went off. He gave teeth to Michael Cole, which you can see right there. And that was it. What I will say about Danhausen, and Danhausen is very much like, he's hit or miss for people. Some people hate the Danhausen gimmick. Some people really like it. If you've never seen him before, because maybe you're just a WWE watcher or what have you, or you're not an AEW fan or a Ring of Honor fan from back in the day when he was in Ring of Honor, prior to Tony Khan purchasing ROH, he's a comedy character. He's a goof. He can be a heel or can be a babyface. I was kind of surprised to see the reports that came out previously that WWE were uncertain about signing him, that they weren't sure he was going to work. To be honest, I've never been so confident that a character will work in WWE than Danhausen. He's WWE's dream, in terms of merchandising, face paint, masks, T-shirts, Halloween. He's goofy. He carries the teeth around with him. He does the curse. Like, he is a marketing and promotional dream. Even during his time in AEW and even prior to joining AEW, he has sold a shit ton of merchandise, like a ton of merchandise. Even not being on AEW TV, he was one of the highest merch sellers on AEWshop.com because he sells a lot of merch. And even then, he was never really... AEW's got a big merchandise problem because they're not very good at getting merch together for their talents. I mean, they never sold a Penta mask. They never sold a Penta mask. They've only just started doing masks for NFL teams. I think they do an El Clon mask as well. Not an El Clon, a hologram mask. So WWE, we know their merchandising power. They will merchandise the hell out of Danhausen. So I don't doubt that. What I just was shocked about, and maybe it does go to show the sort of the online internet wrestling community versus real life, that there's a lot of noise about Danhausen on social media, but when he got in front of the crowd at the United Center in Chicago, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They sat there very quietly, didn't they? They sat there very quietly. I think some people knew who he was. Some people didn't know who he was. Some people did and they didn't care. Some people maybe got their expectations up that it was going to be Chris Jericho when we knew it wasn't going to be Chris Jericho. He's still under contract to AEW. And it was kind of flat. But I don't think that means his WWE career or his gimmick in WWE is dead on arrival by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I think, and there were boos, you're right, JB, there were some boos after, maybe because they thought it was going to be someone else, or they wanted it to be someone else, or they weren't happy with it being a bit of a goofy reveal as opposed to a big time reveal of a main event talent. But despite all of that, like I say, I think Danhausen will do very well. I think the boos maybe came from the fact that he did the big entrance, then the lights went out and he disappeared. And I suppose the problem with that is, what I wouldn't want with the Danhausen character in WWE is, don't lean into the supernatural stuff. You don't need to go that route. What does make Danhausen funny is when, it's this guy in a cape and the face paint, and he does the very nice, very evil and the curses thing, but it's all bullshit. He's just a guy. He's an idiot. You know what I mean? That's what makes it funny, is when he does all that stuff. It's over the top, and he has this sort of, because that's the character. He's meant to be like this sort of super villain, but he's a bit of an idiot. He walks around with his hands like this, and he kind of mutters to himself, and Danhausen, that kind of, that's the gimmick. So what they don't need to do is, don't make him serious. Do not make him supernatural, that he can just disappear in the dark like a Undertaker kind of shit. Do not go down that route. Just make him be a comedy guy. You're clearly sort of sunsetting the R-Truth character. That was their desire until they pissed so many people off they had to bring him back. Do that with Danhausen. He can be goofy. He can be a comedy guy, but don't make him supernatural. So yeah, it wasn't maybe the best debut, but I think he'll do well in WWE. I think he'll do fine, because I think he'll sell a shit ton of merchandise and he'll get over. Same way like Mr. Iguana in AAA, where they can sell puppets and face paint. It's WWE's dream. As soon as they saw that and the reaction to it, they signed him to a contract straight away, and I'm sure Danhausen will be the same. And by the way, also as well, as he should, he'll get a cut of the merch from WWE, and he'll be a very wealthy man because of it. So good for him. Good for him in that sense. So yes, the mystery crate revealed is Danhausen, and what that's going to mean moving forward, I have no idea, because it's not. Maybe this sums up the Danhausen character. He's in WWE. No one's first thought is, okay, what's he doing at WrestleMania? He might not even be on the show. Like he'll probably have some kind of a segment, but do we think he's going to work a match at WrestleMania? I don't know. Maybe he'll team up with Mr. Iguana against. I have no idea, but that instant reaction shows you the point of the Danhausen gimmick. It's not about the matches, because that's not the first thing you think of, is it? Oh, who's he going to face? What match is he going to have? No. So yes, Danhausen has made his WWE debut. We're 1 like away from 50 likes, by the way, folks. If you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. And let's get to the rest of the matches. We began the show with the Women's Elimination Chamber match, and the winner is Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley goes on to WrestleMania and wins the whole thing. Let me just go back to that. The finish, the final two, with Tiffany Stratton and Rhea Ripley. Ripley getting the victory in the end. She's going to be facing Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. Jade Cargill was in the stands to watch this one. The chamber match itself was fine. Nothing to write home about. And to be fair, in terms of the matches on this show, all of the matches were fine. Nothing to write home about. No, standout. That was amazing. Nothing stand out like, oh, I'll tell you what, that was incredible. It was all, fine. Good. Not great. Not something that in a year's time that I'll circle back to and go, I'll tell you what, one of the all-timers that in Elimination Chamber history. Was fine. Finish and outcome, predictable. I think most people assumed it was probably going to be Rhea or Tiffany Stratton to face Cargill at WrestleMania. In terms of the marketing of the match, Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill kind of sells itself. You've got two powerhouses. You've got two people that are incredibly popular on social media. My goodness me, the Stans and the Gooners are going to have their fun, aren't they, with Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley in WrestleMania season. Good grief. So from that sense, the match will sell itself. In terms of what the match will look like from a technical point of view, I'm not sure it's going to be the most pretty match. Rhea's going to be leading the way. Jade Cargill, for someone that's been wrestling now, when did she start in pro wrestling? That was like 2021, I think, in AEW. Or was that 2020? It was towards the end of 2020, I think, 2021. In around that time, she's been wrestling for like 5-6 years. Still really green in the ring. Still very green in the ring. Her matches, you can feel, are quite choreographed and quite a lot of spots figured out ahead of time. So that is really going to be into the deep end for Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. I think Rhea will probably be able to get a good match out of her. It's not going to stack up like the matches she's had at previous WrestleManias. Right, last year's match she was involved in at WrestleMania 41, that triple threat match with Bianca and Io. One of the matches of the year, arguably the match of WrestleMania 41 weekend, was that triple threat. It was brilliant. Absolutely spectacular match. The match between Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill is not going to be that. Match at WrestleMania 40 that she had with Becky Lynch was a good match. The match she had with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 39, now that was a really good match. Proper WrestleMania quality and style match. This match she has with Jade is not going to match up to those. But in terms of, like I said, the build, the marketing around it, that it'll be an easy sell for WWE. It's just, can Jade Cargill deliver in that spot, in that moment? Is it going to be just a singles match again? We know that Rhea's been teaming with Io Sky. They just dropped the women's tag team titles. Is there a way that Io gets back in and, instead of it being Bianca versus Io versus Rhea like it was last year, do we have Cargill versus Rhea and versus Io this year? And maybe Bianca, she's brought back as a special ref. I know she's just had surgery on her finger injury, which she suffered at last year's WrestleMania. Poor Bianca Belair, she's had just an absolute nightmare with that injury. That she finally has had surgery on it. She was a special guest ref at Evolution last summer. So maybe they kind of run back the triple threat, but because Bianca can't do it this year, her former tag team partner Jade Cargill does it, and Bianca's the special guest referee. Maybe that's the direction that they go in. And also, because of that, you get a better match quality, because the match quality with Rhea versus Cargill just isn't going to be it. You put Io Sky in there, still not going to be as good a triple threat as it was last year with Bianca Belair, because Belair's a better worker than Cargill. But there's enough moving parts there to make that match be really, really good. So maybe that's the direction. But, fine match, nothing to write home about, predictable win, and Rhea is going on to WrestleMania. Next up, the Women's Intercontinental Championship. We have a brand new Women's Intercontinental Champion. AJ Lee wins her first singles match in over a decade and wins the Intercontinental Championship doing it. I felt like going into this, I thought, maybe AJ Lee won't win because she's had matches back. I know they're building this as her first singles match in over a decade, but she's won her first 2 matches back, the mixed tag with Punk against Rollins and Becky. Then, of course, she won the Women's War Games match, tapping out Becky Lynch. And we know that they're probably going to face each other again at WrestleMania. So I thought, well, maybe this is the night that Becky wins by nefarious means and it builds up a rematch at Mania. And they did that kind of swerve there. This was well executed by WWE, whereby they had the ref bump, exposed turnbuckle, and DDT on the chair. And AJ Lee still kicks out. Because even before that, AJ had made Becky tap out to the Black Widow, and he thought, all right, so that's what they're doing. AJ had it won, she didn't. Becky's going to steal win. They do a rematch at WrestleMania. But AJ Lee kicked out. It was a swerve, and eventually AJ Lee taps Becky Lynch out with the Black Widow. There's a bit of controversy because Jessica Carr stops Becky from using the exposed turnbuckle again, so Becky has the out there. But I was a bit surprised in that sense that they just AJ won. The only sort of rationale I can think is that all of this is building towards AJ finally putting Becky over at WrestleMania because, okay, they do a rematch. I mean, you've got to raise the stakes somehow. How do you do that? Do you put a stipulation on it? Do you make it a gimmick match? I don't know. But surely AJ has to put Becky over at WrestleMania. I mean, she's come back. If you're a legend and you're coming back, obviously you have to win to establish yourself of like, I'm exactly what I used to be. I can still go. I can still win. I can still go at the highest level. Fine. I get the psychology behind that. But eventually you got to start putting people over. And also, Like, you got to go back, work with the top stars, make money, but you've also got to work with the young stars. And eventually you've got to work with the young stars and put those over too. And yeah, we're going to get Becky Lynch and AJ at WrestleMania, but I want to see AJ face some other people. You know what I mean? I want to see AJ face off against Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton and, Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan. Like, I want to see those matches. I don't just want to see AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch. And I really hope that post-WrestleMania, it's not like, okay, I came back for that run, I'm done now, because that would feel like a real wasted opportunity for me. I'd want to see her involved in more matches with other people. So it does look like we're going to get AJ versus Becky again at Mania, and I'm sure Becky will use the fact that Jessica Carr got involved as an out, if you will. And I thought the finish was a nice swerve, and the match itself was fine. The last sort of 5-10 minute stretch was pretty good. But again, it was just okay, and it was kind of predictable outcome. AJ won. Okay, cool. And then speaking of predictable, CM Punk does win the World Heavyweight Championship match against Finn Balor. Hits the GTS 1-2-3. Post-match, they shake hands. We get a bit of a celebratory moment with Punk and his wife, AJ. Both champions in WWE. AJ, the Women's Intercontinental, Punk, the World Heavyweight Champion. And it means we're getting Roman Reigns versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. In fact, let me move this so we can actually see that, because it means we're getting this match. OTC versus Best in the World at WrestleMania, which we knew we were going to get. Match itself, finish was really weird in this. Really, I didn't get the finish kind of at all. Basically, they had a spot where it looked like Balor was going to go for the coup de grace. Punk gets his leg up and manages to transition it into a sharpshooter. It was brilliant. Brilliant counter and really, really good spot. And I thought, okay, that's going to be the finish, like a proper Bret Hart finish. You finish out of nowhere, you didn't see coming. A great counter, tap out, 1-2-3. Crowd applauds the creativity and actually the craft of being able to sort of lock in the sharpshooter. But Balor got to the ropes, and then they kind of fumbled around for a bit, and Punk then did a few sort of like kicks to Balor's head and just got him up in GTS 1-2-3. And you thought, oh. It kind of felt like they forgot what the finish was going to be, or something went wrong. It just stomped on him, GTS 1-2-3, and I just felt like, a more impactful finish, because everyone expected knew Punk was going to win. Everyone knew that he's going to hit the GTS 1-2-3. So throw a bit of a curveball in there. Go, all right, we know Punk's going to win because the match is already booked. And this is the problem with the Roman Reigns schedule, isn't it? Because the Roman Reigns schedule is limited and it's part-time, they knew, well, we have to announce Roman's opponent right after the Rumble. One, because Roman's not going to be around. And two, like I said earlier on, we need to sell tickets. Tickets are down. Tickets are down 20% from this time last year because the prices are way too high from TKO. You've run the same venue 2 years in a row, the same market 2 years in a row. So it's less of a destination. I know it's still Vegas, but Vegas tourism is down too. And your creative's not good. The matches is you can't have the arrogance of, well, it's WrestleMania, the tickets will sell themselves, and it doesn't matter what show we put on. No, people, if you're gonna charge people that amount of money, you've got to give them their money's worth. And I don't even know if you ever can with the money that they're charging, but you got to give them something to part with their money for. And that's why they had to do the Roman Reigns Punk announcement, because they knew we need to sell tickets, and Roman's not going to be around. But what that meant was, we know the finish of Elimination Chamber, so we knew Punk was going to win. But what they could have done is maybe a bit more of a creative finish. And if they'd have done the sharpshooter, that would have been, I think, a good way of going, look, Punk was going to win, but that finish was pretty cool. Either way, it means we're getting CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, main event of WrestleMania. This will be the main event on night 2, as it should be. It's the biggest match on the show. It is, for me, as of right now, of all the matches that have been announced, the only match that feels like that is a WrestleMania match. For me, WrestleMania matches shouldn't necessarily only be first-time ever matches, because sometimes you don't have the luxury of that, but they should be matches of, this feels big. Listen, this isn't a first-time ever match. Punk versus Roman in the singles. It's not the first time they would have faced each other in a singles, but this is the first time these versions have faced each other. This is, Roman Reigns, the OTC, head of the table versus CM Punk. That's a WrestleMania main event. And it's a difficult one to call. Who wins? Does Roman win it and then disappear? Or does Punk win and beat WWE's Golden Boy, even though the Golden Boy really is Cody at this point. That was good shit. That's what pro wrestling is. Shouldn't be that predictable, and there should be logical, good reasons for either person to win. So I'm looking forward to that. This match tonight was, it felt like it was just, we need to have Phil on the card. It's Chicago. He's the champ. Who should we have him with? Let's give him against Finn. Finn's a safe pair of hands. He's not going to hurt Punk. Punk's going to be fine for Mania. He's not going to have any injuries. And they'll have a good match. They'll entertain the crowd, and everyone will go home happy. And that's what it was. That's what the match was, really, wasn't it? So, yeah, so WrestleMania looks a little bit clearer. The path to it certainly does. As far as an overall show, look, I feel like just in general, I think it was a predictable show with a lot of predictable outcomes. That's never necessarily a bad thing. I thought the matches were fine. I can't really complain too much. I don't think they were blow away, or amazing. I don't think I'm not sure this is a Chamber event that will go down in history as being incredibly memorable, and was filled with big moments. Rollins' return, but the Rollins return would mean way more if the people that took him out were around. They're not. They're injured. So the Rollins return doesn't really land as much because the vision has been decimated by injury as is. So kind of karma's already got them. Rollins doesn't need to. The finish of the men's chamber is a nice swerve, but again, I think everyone knows. It's not like we're coming out of this show tonight going, well, Cody's not going to be challenging for the title at Mania. Wow, they're going in a real different direction. We all know Cody's challenging for the title at Mania. He's probably winning the thing. Everyone knows that. We're just like, how are they going to get there? The crate reveal. It was, to be honest, I'm not too bummed out of people. I thought it was going to be Jericho. I thought it was going to be a big name. Danhausen kind of fits. It was kind of my prediction anyway, because it's the 2026 Gobbledygooker, isn't it? Gobbledygooker Survivor Series 1990. There's a big egg. Who's going to come out of it? It's the Gobbledygooker. It's the same thing, isn't it? There's a giant crate. It's Danhausen. It kind of works. It maybe fell a bit flat on the night, but I think it'll be fine. So yeah, that was the show itself was, predictable, okay. Shows us what we're going to do for Mania. Am I hyped for Mania? No, not really. I'm interested in the main event. I think the main event's a proper WrestleMania main event, big time match. I'm excited about that. Everything else, not really for me. Not really for me at this point. Hopefully they find something else, because it's not that at the moment. I think now that it's purely Punk and Roman, I think that will heat up a lot. We know Roman's going to be on Raw on Monday. I think they're still going to continue down. Because look, the promo they had after the Rumble with Punk and Roman was really good, wasn't it? That got people talking. Because it will be what Punk feuds are, which are, they usually get personal. They blur the line between fiction and reality, don't they? So there'll be a lot of, you walked out, and when you walked out, I was here, and you're fragile, Phil. And I've seen, Roman's already tweeted going, he looked kind of gassed out there, didn't he? He's an old man. It'll be stuff like that, which will be entertaining. That'll be good shit. But everything else, if Brock works over, I'll be up for that. If he works LA Knight, I won't. So, yeah, there's still a lot of work to do for WWE. And we're probably coming out of tonight with more questions than actual answers. Well, some answers, because if you've been watching wrestling long enough, you can kind of put the pieces together and see what they're trying. But for a lot of it, you just go, oh, you still got to win me over, WWE, because there's still a lot of work to do. So, yes, there you go. When did we end up in terms of likes? We are at 59 likes. We've got close to 100 people watching. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe to Wrestling News 365 if indeed you are new. As you can see right there, we are now less than 100 to go until 27,000. So that's amazing. We've got a bunch of new subscribers tonight and today and over this weekend. I'm doing my best actually to up the output on the channel. I'm getting to a point now where usually it was 2 videos a day, but I think we're now at a point where we can do probably 3. So there'll be a news video, a countdown video, and then like an additional video later on. Sometimes it'll be a countdown video, sometimes it'll be a bit of a deep dive, sometimes it'll be a historic thing, but we're going to be doing more of them. I'm going to try and do a few more live streams. They're just difficult to do scheduling wise because obviously I do this and United View and other stuff, so it's difficult to kind of fit in, whereas the pre-records I can kind of do them at in blocks so they can get that out. So, yes, there's going to be loads of content coming out. Really appreciate everyone that's getting involved. We've grown a really, really fantastic community here. That's kind of hopefully a bit tribalism free. That's my aim. It's not WWE versus AEW versus TNA versus whatever. It's just pro wrestling. You like what you like. You don't like what you like. You can have a safe space to discuss what you like and you don't like, and you don't have to get into terrible squabbles about it all, even though it is the internet. So it's a lot of fun. So I really appreciate everyone that's getting involved, tuning in, and subscribing and supporting the channel. Like I say, this thing is just me. Everything you see here is just me. No one else works on this channel but me. It is my passion project. It is my my baby. It's what I started getting into YouTube for back in 2019. Fucking hell, 7 years ago started this. And I started getting into everything else. So it's never going to go anywhere. It is my my pride and joy. All the graphics, everything you see on the screen, that is what I sit here making it all. So yeah, so I really appreciate everyone that's tuning in and getting involved. And it's only just the beginning. We're on the road to WrestleMania, and what have we got coming up next in terms of live streams? Next live stream will be Revolution. I think AEW Revolution in March, which is what, a couple of weeks? I think a couple of weeks. When is AEW Revolution, actually? When is that? AEW Revolution 2026. No, it's March. March 15th. So that's what 2 weeks today. 2 weeks today. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be live for AEW Revolution. And then, of course, as we're heading into WrestleMania season, now that Stand and Deliver is not WrestleMania weekend, it's the weekend before, I think it is. I might do a watch along and a post show for that, since that's not WrestleMania weekend. Although I don't usually do NXT events, but I might for that. And then the week building up to WrestleMania, I'll be live on the Raw Go Home show. I'll be live on the SmackDown Go Home show. I'll be live, obviously, for both nights of WrestleMania, Saturday and Sunday. And then I'll be live for the Raw After Mania. So we'll have a busy week that week as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and everything else that happens in between. So there you go, guys. Appreciate everyone for tuning in this evening. Lock it in. If you haven't already, click that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And we're on the road to WrestleMania. I'm out of here. Peace.